Okay, it's the end of the session. Not pictured as Sassy, who I kept on calling Sasha. But basically, this is Trixie, and this is Dozer, and this is their roadmap to success. Now, we keep them separate because of the fights, and so I might have to maneuver a little bit, but it looks better if I have dogs in the shot. All right, so yes, even you. So basically, the guardian just pointed out that he was staring at her. That's usually the first indication of a fight. Most of us wait until the dogs are actually fighting, and that's when we try to intercede. It's much better to stop them right at the genesis point, and stopping and freezing or staring are usually the first indications. So I'm going to go through some stuff a little bit a weird order than I normally do because there's some stuff that I just went over that I want to make sure I'm doing fresh. So if I forget to put that in, make sure you message me about if I don't have links for potty training, the leave it exercise, or invisible boundaries. Please make sure you message me and I'll add those into the right up above. Okay, so Dozer here is a little bit possessive of one of the members of the house. So if he is with her, he'll go after Trixie if she walks in the room or approaches. So I went over basically a technique. It's basically the same thing I use for dogs with the resource guarding issue. And this practice being together is kind of one of the things I talked about in the video above. It's really important for them to do. So maybe having one of them, well, we're going to talk about furniture in a sec, so let's just stay on topic. So basically, if I'm sitting here with Dozer, I would actually probably prefer to have Dozer on the ground when we're doing this exercise. And I would have a leash and have Dozer on a straight leash so he can't get too Trixie. We're going to have somebody else outside of the room, and they're going to have high-value training treats, probably the chicken liver treats that we brought in here. You're going to approach the guardian who is here with Dozer, and you're going to be watching Dozer, the person who's got Trixie on the leash. And as soon as Dozer is kind of like hanging out, all of a sudden he goes, stop when he freezes like that, or if he starts staring at her. Stop at that point. Take note of how close you are, and then move out away or even outside the room so he relaxes. Stiffness is also could be an indicator. Stiffs or stops breathing or breathes really hard. So any of those things you see the dog doing, stop, take note of how distance. Let's say you're at 20 feet. Then you're going to leave the room, come back into the room, and this time you're going to stop at 21 feet, 1 foot further away. So the idea is the dog doesn't freeze or give any of those signals. At that point, we're going to roll the treat towards Dozer and the guardian, you. And when Dozer goes to look up, the person with Trixie is going to turn around and walk away. So yes, I saw that. And we want to approach from all sorts of different angles: front facing, side, behind. So try to position yourself like we have a big room in one of the rooms of the house. That'd be a great room to practice in, but we want to practice in all the different rooms. And for the smaller rooms, you might wait until you're getting more confined. You can get closer to that 5 feet or 10 feet. So this might take several practice sessions. Probably will take several practice sessions. And when you get to the point where you go from like 21 feet to 20 to 19, you get to 18, and dog starts getting stiff when you approach again, back up one more step, always end on a good one. And then take note of what the distance was. And it also depends on what else is going on. If the kids have some friends over and they're going crazy in the other room, that's going to be a multiplier. So, and also you can exercise the dogs beforehand. This will set them up for success like we talked about earlier in the session. So I would definitely systematically do that until you get to the point where you can approach from every angle. And not only does Dozer not think it's a negative, Dozer's like, can we get Trixie to approach? Because whenever she approaches, it rains treats. And it's a really effective technique. It's all force-free, it's all positive reinforcement. Okay, we also talked about, we went through a leave it exercise, and you'll get a video, there should be a video link of here. I'd like you to practice the leave it exercise with each dog in different rooms, obviously separately. You want to get to the point where, in the video, I think we just talked about just hovering, but you want to start lengthening it. So eventually you can like throw a treat on the ground, and over there, Dozer looks at it as they get ready to go, leave it. That's the dog's way saying, can I get that treat? No, they never get the treats on the ground. And after I leave it a respectable period of time, then you come over and treat the dog. Leave it. And remember, always say the command word after the treat goes in their mouth, and then pick the treat up off the ground. So now if he's staring at her, later on he has this as a signal, you could say leave it to mean stop staring. And also practice, I remember showing me to practice on the table because that's one of the things Dozer likes to get Legos on the table. That's where I like to eat my Legos as well. All right, so the next step is, next thing we went over was let me see, we in the video above, we went over some kind of pair treating. And I'm not gonna talk about that, but we need these two to practice doing positive, fun things together. And one of the things I'd like you to do is I'd like to have like one of the dogs over here tethered to this corner of the couch and the other dog tethered to that corner of the couch. And at first we just want, and probably even further a distance, maybe to the fridge or the thing that's by the fridge. So anytime your dog's reacting, we want to increase the distance. And if you see them staring during this, then increase the distance until they're doing that. You could also use bully sticks, cow's knees, pig ears, all sorts of those different things. Now be careful when you have those high value items. Sometimes that creates a fight or a problem if they get too close. Now if Dozer's eating and she approaches and he growls at her, it's not aggression. He's saying, I don't like you being this close to me. And it is highly rude in the dog world to be within 7 feet of anyone as a high value item, whether it's a dog or a person. So that's one of the rules we talked about, not being allowed to be within 7 feet of humans who are eating, whether it's a snack here or anywhere else in the house, or cooking food or eating at the dinner table over there. All right, so let me see, what else do we, let's go back to traditionally what I do. We started talking about exercise. The dogs actually get walks when it's nice out. It's nice this time of the year, but I understand it's crappy and we don't like to walk a lot. But remember, I would like these two to walk together once a day. And we want them walking in this position. So a short leash with one dog on this side, one dog on that side. If you have two handlers, that's great. Put the handlers in the middle, the dogs on the outside. So let them sniff, but try to keep them even. Whoever's in front is perceived to be the leader. So if you let them, one dog go in front, Dozer goes in front, she's going to want to go in front. You're just going to go back and forth. So you have to keep a short leash. If you're interested, we actually teach a loose leash walking class. It doesn't teach them to heel, but it teaches them not to lunge or pull on the leash. But the idea is just keeping a short leash will work. Just try to keep tension off of it. So just walk. All it has to be is maybe 4 houses around and back. But we need them to practice, like I said, those positive things once a day. So I'd like to see 1 walk a day. We'd like to see them tethered to each other. If you guys hang out like a family and watch TV or do stuff late at night, that's a great time to do it. We want to do it at those down times. The dogs have this sort of energy. We want them practicing being together without staring or reacting whatsoever. We have to build in those positive associations. And there's other things you can do as well. The pair treating exercise that your daughter did was great, and all of you should do that repetitively because it's a nice, easy way to get the dogs to focus on you and to sit and listen to you. Now, Taylor also went over an out command. Remember to do that with every room in the house. So what I do is I take one of the tricky trainer treats, I tear it in half, and I have one dog separately. Walk to any doorway or portal or area that you want the dog to leave. We talked about being a box. So a line that comes from this end of this couch to the end of that couch. This box here is off limits if a human in this box is eating food. Dogs can be anywhere else but in this box. So what we want to do is first teach the dogs to leave the box. So if Dozer's here, I'd show him I have a treat, roll a treat about 2 feet outside of the line. When he runs out and gets it, I would say the word out. Then I would roll it that direction, that direction, that direction, this direction, all the different directions. So every doorway as well. So we do 2 outs for every point or doorway. And once we've done all the doorways in the whole house, then we come back, and this time we stand in the hallway and we throw the treat into the kitchen, and we say the word kitchen. Throw the treat in the living room, call it living, playroom, the kids' names rooms, or whatever it is. So now we've created a command word to leave any room and to go to any room. And remember, for dogs, the worst punishment is to be excluded from the group. So right now, I didn't ask the guardians, but I'm pretty sure they've been rotating the dogs pretty well. Because if one dog's outside, then it is looked at as punishment. So it's nice if you can do it, kind of like what we're doing now, is we have a couple people on this side of the fence and a couple people on the other side of the fence. That way the dogs don't feel alone. So make sure you keep on rotating that. Let me see, what else was I going over? Exercise. So basically, remember on the walks, sniffing burns more energy than actually walking. So make sure you let them sniff as long as it's safe to do so. Other things, forms of exercise, the laser, these dogs like to, but obviously not together. And remember, this laser is going to activate their prey drive, so be careful about that. That's a good way to burn energy, but not something before you get them together, before you practice these things that I mentioned about. Now, for these things, also check with your vet to make sure that they don't have any problems with mobility, or the vet doesn't want them doing these repetitive activities, because sometimes repetitive activities can lead to injury. So one of them is I call it the dog stairmaster. Go to the top of the stairs, show Dozer I got a treat, throw the treat to the bottom of the stairs. Remember, dogs can read your facial expressions and come up with a funny command word. Call it Cabo, Jamaica, Mexico, whatever you want to say. So the dog licks up the treat is when they should hear the command word. Then show Dozer I got another treat, and I'm at the top of the stairs. The dog runs to the top of the stairs, and I give another treat and call it Canada. Do it with an empty stomach with each dog and max each dog out. So you know what, maybe Dozer's number is 73, her number is 44, and Sassy's number is 15. Might be 10. But they do need exercise on a regular basis. What I would recommend is, one of the kids is not going to be happy with me, but I would recommend this becomes a chore for the kids. And it's very short. It probably shouldn't take longer than about 6 minutes, 7 minutes total. And I would have each of the kids Do it with each dog once. So in the morning, and the dogs are doing it separately, and in the evening. If mom and dad could do that as well, that would be great. And remember, if the dogs are naughty, quote unquote, I do air quotes right now, but I need to keep them separated. But if the dogs are naughty or getting in trouble, it's probably a safe bet that they haven't been exercised. Ask yourself, if it's been longer than an hour? If it's been longer than an hour, take them and exercise them. Exercising dogs, and again, before you get them together and practice the tethering or any of the other stuff we talked about, exercising together is a great way to set them up for success. Okay, other things you can do is play fetch. She's the one who likes to play fetch and doesn't play fetch anymore. So when she does, if she ever brings you the ball, you can play fetch in the house, and giving her a treat every time that she does it. No, you're not going anywhere. I'm trying to reposition my hand. There we go. But giving her a treat every time that she brings you the ball back can be a motivator. She's not a natural fetching dog. Now this could be a little avoid. See how he's kind of looking away. That's kind of like I'm not wild about, so I'm looking away as a signal to you. So when I play fetch, I say fetch 3 times. As I throw the ball, I say fetch. When the dog picks the ball up in its mouth, I say fetch. And then I hold the treat out, and I don't ever take the ball from the dog. I hold the treat to the dog's nose. When it drops it, I pop the treat in her mouth and say fetch. Only then do I pick it up and throw it again. And so sometimes she's going to be in the mood. So if she brings you a ball or something in the house, you're watching TV, try to pause the TV. Ride the wave. Play fetch a little bit. Fetch is an amazing one if you can get them to do it on a regular basis. Oh man, it's a great way to burn energy. You can use the laser, like I said, to be sparing about that. Other things you can do is Google scent games. That's a great way to exercise by using their nose. And you can also get a snuffle mat and a treat dispensing toy. Another video, if you can add, whoever's got the pencil, structured feeding. I'd like you to feed them, use structured feeding for them. Now, at first, these two are not going to be in the same room when we're structured feeding, but eventually we'd like to get to that point. So the video will explain kind of how to do that. Right now, I'd like to do structured feeding, either Trixie and Sassy, or Sassy and Dozer. And so the dogs have to wait for permission to eat, and the human who is feeding them eats something in 5 or more bites first. Then we're going to eat, then Sassy's going to always be the next dog to eat unless she's being fussy, and then she might lose that privilege. But she is the best behaved dog, and she's the oldest dog. So we want to give her seniority. Dogs eat in the order of their rank. So that's why the human who feeds eats first, then Sassy, then Dozer, and then rotate it. Each meal, it's going to be Sassy and Dozer for breakfast, then Sassy and Trixie for dinner, then the next day, or I would flip it up so it's not always breakfast and always dinner. But that way you add a little bit of structure to mealtime, and they practice a little self-restraint. Remember, when she's eating, he's not allowed to be near, and vice versa. Okay, so other rules, not being on the furniture. If you do that, get the X-Mats, and I would highly recommend you do it, because it's very easy for one dog to climb on top of another person. Now I'm in possession of that person. The other dog walks even too close. That can be a precipitator of a fight. So if we take that away, then we don't have to worry about that. Remember, we don't have to take it away forever, but at 90 days or as long as the problem's still going on. After that point, if I want to invite Dozer up, I invite Dozer up. It's a one-time pass for good behavior, because I want to, and not ever to reward him for being a good dog. If you want to reward him, pet him, give him some belly rubs, play fetch, play tug of war, whatever it is. There's a lot of ways to reward a dog. Don't break a rule to reward them. So, all right. So basically, you okay, buddy? Like, no, I like the paw up there. Get the X-Mats. It just makes it a lot easier. You'll probably have to get one, and you can tear them in half. So you can put half of it here or half of it there. Same thing on that couch, 3 on that couch, and 2 on here, plus the halves. It'll take a couple of weeks, but after a while, they'll stop wanting to trying to go up there because they don't have the option to. It's not you. I'd let you up, Dozer, but the X-Mat's there, buddy. At the same time, get another dog bed. Make sure it's white, light cream, or light gray, lighter than this color, and no pattern on it. And so you have a dog bed in both rooms. And you can throw a dog treat on there. Remember, every time the dog licks it up, come up with a name for the dog bed. Maybe we call that one Boji for Okaboji, or whatever it is. So eventually, you throw a treat there, the dog goes over and licks it up. We say Boji. And eventually, after enough times, the dog would go there. When it goes there, then you get up and go over and give the dog a treat and say Boji. Or you just say the word Boji. And so this way, the dogs have we've associated the action of going to the dog bed with the command word. Now, after you take away the furniture, the dog bed is even more valuable. And we just want them to have a designated place to go in each room. No, you got to stay here, buddy. I appreciate your persistence, though. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Not even Dozer. Yes. All right, let me see. We also talked about other rules. We talked about, like I said, not being in the square when we're eating here, not being in the kitchen when we're preparing food. You have to sit at the door. Go to the door, tell the dog to sit one time. If, let's say, not these two, but let's say it's Sassy and Dozer, I go to the door and say sit, and Sassy sits, but I open the door and let Sassy out, and Dozer does not get the privilege because he didn't pay for it. He has to pay for, they're going to start paying for things. They pay for it based on performance, obedience, essentially. So I say sit, Sassy sits within 3 seconds, I open the door, let her out. Dozer does not, so he doesn't get outside. I sit down nearby, ask the personal assistant for a 1 minute timer. After 1 minute, go back to the door and command him, sit. If he doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away and sit down for 2 minutes. Next time I sit down for 4 minutes, 8 minutes, 16 minutes, keep double length of time. Eventually, he'll go sit at the door as his way of saying, I'd like to go outside, please. And when he does, make sure you go let him out. Eventually, you can do it both directions. And I would also do it with that door, the gate that you have there, any door in the house that's closed. If you kennel them before they get out of the kennel, sitting is a more subordinate position. So it's a good habit to them to get into and other things. That way, if he's staring at her, he's telling him to sit, that can take a little bit of piss out of it. Okay, so getting back to the feeding for the rule. Whoever's feeding is going to eat first, then the dog, then Sassy's going to eat, then the other dog, and then we'll feed whoever the dog is that's outside the boundary eats next. When you're doing that, use that passive training. Come up with a unique command word for each dog to eat, and so that way they can start. And you could also do the tethering. You could have maybe Dozer tethered on that side and her tethered on this side, depending on where you have the feeding bowls. That way they can, the leash does the work for you, but they are practicing in the room without going towards it. And if they go over and sniff the bowl and then walk away, as soon as they walk away, pick up the bowl and dump it empty and put the empty bowl back down, and then you're done, then we call the next dog up. I'm not going to beg you. You got about 1 minute of me calling you over. I'm not even going to call you the whole minute. But if you don't come over in a minute, I just dump the bowl and you missed out on that rotation of the mealtime. After a while, hunger kicks in, they'll queue up and they'll be pretty interested. I would make sure you get to the point where they're eating their food out of the bowls first before you switch over to the snuffle mat and the Omega Paw treat bowl. And I would definitely get those and feed them out of those, because those are once you can get a Chabasat, because that's a nice way to get some exercise through something you're going to feed them, do anyways, every day anyways, feeding them. Okay, let me see. Those are examples of rules, but look for other examples of rules. You have to sit before I'm going to put the leash on you. You have to wait before I even reach for the gate. Also, excitement, which is where some of this came from, and a lot of dog problems come from, is from excitement. Now, when a dog is out of breath or stressed out, they're breathing heavy and they're panting. And we interpret that as a smile. And we get them all worked up. You want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? Let's go for a walk. You want to go for a walkie? And then we wonder why the dog makes a mistake. So when you come home, the dog's going to be very excited. I want all the family members when you come home to pretend like the dogs are invisible. If they jump up and you kind of shimmy away, because jumping up can be a way of claiming you, and then just come in and do your business. As soon as the dog starts getting calm, start reaching for the dog. You'll only make it a little bit of a reach. The dog says, wait, pull your arm back and go back to doing what you're doing. Don't say no. Don't correct the dog. This is just for you guys. It's okay. So what we're saying is through operant conditioning, that when you're calm, you're very attracted to us. We want to pet you. When you get excited, you're invisible to us. And I would come up with a word for all of you guys in the house that's going to help you guys remember that, because you won't, quicksand, or I don't know, some word that's funny. Remember, use funny command words. That means you're engaging with the dog when it's excited. So if anybody says that command to you, you just immediately, pixie stick maybe for sugar. And you say pixie stick, and that person stops interacting with the dog immediately. Now remember, if any of the dogs jump up on you, what we want you to do is just pull back from them and freeze and become as boring as you possibly can. When the dog dismounts, don't pet it for dismounting, because it'll just jump back up to get that reward. When it dismounts, then tell it to sit or to lie down or paw, or I didn't get paw, but whatever it is, and then reward the dog for doing that activity. So now we're redirecting the dog. What we're saying, jumping up on us are on the table. Well, the table, because he'll jump up there all the time, that would be a leave it. But he jumps up on you, and if we shove him down, he's programmed to push back up again. And he's not going to get the lesson even if we chastise him. Remember, good attention, bad attention, same thing. Okay, so we also talked about ways to add structure. So basically, when you come home, you'll probably have to reach 5, 10, 15 times before the dogs stay calm. And I'd probably have just one dog in this room and 2 dogs in that room, and do it with both sides of the fence. And eventually your dogs learn being calm and balanced is the only way they get attention. That will stop a lot of the problem that you have, just that one little thing alone. Now, we talked about adding structure. I consider petting a dog our way of paying the dog. Yes, and your payment is going to be freedom here in a minute. So basically, the dogs come up and nudge, especially Sassy. She comes up and shoves her nose under your hand. She's telling us what to do. Leaders tell, followers ask. So next time the dog comes up and tells you what to do, instead of petting the dog and validating that, yes, you're the boss of me, what I'd like you to do instead is tell the dog to sit. If it's already sitting, tell it to sit somewhere else on the other side of your knee, or tell it to lay down. If it sits or lies down within that 3-second window, pet it under its chin. A proud, confident dog has its nose in the air, so avoid reaching over the head. See how the ears went back? That's kind of an insecure body mechanic. Nose went up, but the ears went back. If a 12-foot tall man came to stick his hand over my head, my ears would go back and I'd duck down too. So all things being, you can pet them anywhere you want except for here. Don't ever pat. And all things being equal, I'd rather have them feel good about the things I want. So pet under the chin if all things are equal. So if the dog comes up and nudges you, you get a counter order, tell it to sit. If it sits in that 3-second window, you reach over and pet it and say sit, and pet it as much or as little as you want. At least one pet to as many as you want. If it doesn't sit within 3 seconds, playing hard to get works great for dating. It works great for dogs. Show the dog, I got other things going on. I made you the top of my list, but you couldn't be bothered to sit. So you don't get any attention from me. Concentrating your attention by withholding it makes it more valuable. Eventually the dogs will realize, I can't tell the humans what to do anymore. I have to ask. And better than ask, I have to prepay for the attention. And what the dogs will do is they'll start coming in front of you and sitting down to prepay for the attention, because that seems to be the thing that you like. And when it does, make sure you do reach over and pet it. Otherwise, it can go back to nudging you, barking at you, jumping up at you. Now you're teaching the dog this is the way to ask for attention. And there's a term for this. We call it manding in the dog world. And it's a beautiful thing when your dog does it. Now, a stepchild of manding is what I like to call passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior that you want without being told to do so. So every time that Dozer comes to you, you should pet him and say, come, when you didn't ask him. Every time he sits, pet him and say, sit. Every time he lays down, pet him and say, down, or crash, or whatever your word is. Name, I'll let you go ahead. Go ahead, buddy. Name all your individual toys. Now, all balls can be balls, but and all bones can be bones. But if you have one that looks like a carrot, call it carrot. So eventually, every time the dog brings you that particular thing, you can say whatever that command is. The dog goes over, knows what it is. I asked the guardians earlier what the dogs do to make them happy, and they have struggled to come up with. They gave me a list of things they didn't want the dog to do, which is what most of my clients do. This will help the dogs understand. They sure like it when I sit, when I lay down, when I come. This is kind of on the topic, so I'm just going to talk about potty training real quick. What's your word for potty?
Potty.
Okay. It's the most common word, and it causes a lot of problems because it's such a commonly used word. And we have a little dog barking outside, so I'm just prepared in case I want to increase the distance. And if they're ever reacting, increasing the distance is the best thing to do. All right, so basically what you want to do is go outside with the dog, and I would do it for the next week because we have beautiful weather right now. Don't want to do it when it's crappy weather. Every time the dog goes outside, let it out by itself, whoever the potty issue is, have a treat with you. Don't let the dog see you have a treat. Follow it around, stay within 10 feet of it, and don't tell the dog to potty. If it doesn't go potty within 5 minutes, bring it back in and either hold it like this, put it on a leash, and hold on a leash. Don't let it out of your sight. Wait about 15 minutes or until it starts fussing. Then when it does, take it outside. It has no more than 5 minutes. If it doesn't go in 5 minutes, not urgent enough to go. As soon as it starts to pee or poop, say business or whatever the word is that you want to use for your command word. That's the word I use. So say it in a normal tone of voice. Most of the time we have dogs with accents. The students go to the bathroom and we go, business! And the dog will stop pottying and come inside and have an accent later on. So say it business, normal tone of voice. When the dog gets done, crouch down like a softball catcher. The dog will see you do that and it'll come right over to you, pop the treat in its mouth and say the word business the second time. The first time associates the action with the command word. The second time associates the command word with the reward. Kisses. You can use that for passive training as well. We'll talk about that in a sec. So basically, what was I lost my train of thought. What was I just talking about? Potty. Thank you. So this associates, and after a while the dog's like, I will dare not waste this urine because if I do this stuff outside, I get paid. If I do it inside, nothing happens. And we want to make sure, I would celebrate that for sure, pet. So nothing happens is actually a good thing. There we go. Because for dogs, if you're punishing the dog for rubbing its nose in it or chastising it for having an accident, they learn not to tell you they have to go to the bathroom. So it's the opposite of what you're looking to do. So don't ever punish a dog if it has an accident. No punishment is going to help at all. As a matter of fact, it'll make it worse. So rubbing the nose in it. What we want to do is just make it all positive. So if you go outside and know you got a potty, and you don't potty, when you come in, you don't have freedom. You keep on doing this until you do your homework, in this case, pottying. Then you get to be free. Now, the 3 times the dog's most likely to need to go is right after waking up, 5 minutes after eating, and 15 minutes after playtime. And on potty training a dog, I take it out once an hour by itself as well. If you do this for a week solid, you should have it nipped in the bud. But that means that every time that dog goes outside, at least until it goes potty, somebody goes outside with it. And again, you won't want to do it all winter long. Do it for the next week, and you can get it nipped in the bud. Okay, and the training treats that I'm using, I would use those for potty training. And the first couple times, you might even do it if the dog really has difficulty. You can give them a jackpot, which would be like potty, 5 treats in a row. For a challenging or a difficult situation, or if the dog achieves something that's really difficult. We also talk about passive training. Petting with a purpose is if the dog tells you what to do, or if you want to pet the dog, you still tell the dog to sit. Passive training is basically waiting for the dog to organically offer it. So it's a little bit different. They're similar, but different. Now, remember that we use some watchwords because we're gonna pet the dog so often they don't even realize it. So the watchwords I use, I say paycheck for petting with a purpose. If somebody comes in and sees that I'm petting Trixie and she's standing up, they say, paycheck, I stop petting. I tell her to sit or lie down. If she sits or lies down, I pet her on her chin, say sit or lie down. Then I tell the person, I actually asked her to sit before you came in. When you opened the door, she stood up and I continue to pet her, but thank you because I do forget pet without a purpose. It's not a gotcha. Celebrate means the dog just did something that you want and you missed it. So I'm sitting here watching TV and Trixie walks up to me and somebody says celebrate. I would just look over it and say celebrate and pet her. Don't ask what, don't look for a treat, just immediately start petting the dog and say, by narrating, we mean just saying the command word for that particular action. So if she's standing there, assume it's a come. If she's sitting, pet her under her chin, say sit. If it's laying down, crash. Like I said, name all your individual toys. All right, so we also say vocabulary if you're using a different version of the dog word. Most of us talk to our dogs as if they speak English. Come here, come here, come here, over here, here girl, dog's name, whistle, tap my thigh, and a nickname. Now the dog has to listen for 10 words out of the 2,000 to 11,000 words that each human in the house says every single day. So instead, we want to use these watchwords so that, so if somebody says vocabulary, that means you said too many words. A lot of people's dog sits and they say, oh, what a good girl, you sat down. Well, they hear the first word you say. And I said sat versus sit. So come on, list the official command words taped to the fridge, if you can find room, and then everybody in the house uses that one word. It can accelerate the dog's learning tremendously. I also say Scrabble if you're using too many words. You can say vocabulary too, I guess. And repeat or rerun if you're repeating the command. Remember, the more you say it, the less you mean it. Trying to think, is there anything else that we went over? I went over the escalating consequences. I don't go over those in video format. You know what those are. If you have any questions, please call me or text me. All right, now the only time I get mad with my clients is if they have a problem, they don't let me know. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going great. So if there are any questions, problems, please text or call me. Texting is the best way to reach me because I get so many calls, so many emails. Text, I'll see it right away, especially if you text me a picture of Trixie or Dozer or whoever it is. Hey, a quick Dozer question. When they're pottying, do I do it this or that? And I'll get back to you within a day. All right, well, Dozer. This is Dozer. Well, this is the back of Dozer. This is Trixie, and Sasha's over there behind the green wall. And this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.